a bunch of thank yous to start. First of all, foremost, to APE, which has generously offered us this space for this event, and particularly to Lisa Thompson, Associate Director, and Gordon Thorne, who's the Executive Director of APE. I'm not used to these things. I also want to thank the Northampton Center for the Arts, which is facilitating the workshops tomorrow, and we hope that we plan that that's going to be an ongoing event, an annual event of workshops in poetry and fiction to propel the spirit forward. And I want to thank everybody who donated to the center for that, and in particular my stepsister who couldn't be here today, but she really kind of endowed that fund. So her name's Ann Krieger, and we're sorry she's not here with us today. I want to really thank all the friends of Eli's who really make this happen by sharing their work and their time and their hearts. And in particular, Ryan Carson, who's going to MC the readers, kind of shuffle us through. And Jack Nakmanovich and Chris Gonzalez, who are leading the poetry workshop, and Meg Wallitzer, who's reading the fiction workshop. I also want to thank the visual artists who are on display here. The photographs, that's actually Eli's work from when he was he took a photography course at GCC, and so there's from that course and a little beyond. Frankie Jerome is these two pieces here. Will Hannum has 3 pieces. That's Eli. He painted that in high school. That's Eli's Searching. Some of Will's paintings in the series are still up at Northampton High School. Oh, that little one is Eli too. Will is also the birthday candle one, and that is photographs by Stephen Petaborski of Will's installation about Eli. Renee Brazenel has a piece over there. Emily Smucker is right behind where John is. And Jake Wyans is over kind of by the elevator, I think. And Emily Spidell her painting is over by the thing over there. And in the videos you're seeing the one with such a music. I believe that was taken by Anna Lawrence's brother, and I don't know his first name, but anyway, it was Anna Lawrence's brother. And the other video is taken off of Eli's phone. So it's his Snapchats and videos that he shot. So it kind of gives you a feel for Eli. Yes. Oh, sorry. And Greg Nakmanovich. This is his. Thank you. I did have him down here, but I missed it. And I want to say there's still a few places in the workshops, both the fiction and poetry. So if anybody's, don't be shy. If you're a secret poet or a fiction writer, this is the place to step forward. You can see me or Meg or Chris or Jack afterwards. And then I also want to say that although Eli often wrote about sort of the darker elements of life here in Western Mass, I was actually looking forward to him growing out of that, but he did grow up in a town and a region that is imbued with culture and creativity, and I think that's something that really allowed and encouraged him to conceive of himself as a writer and an artist. And as many of you know, for years I've been working with the Northampton Community Arts Trust to create a permanent, protected, affordable arts facility in Northampton, one that will be the new home for the Northampton Center for the Arts, and where APE will also have a considerable presence. And we are now moving forward with construction that will allow partial occupancy of the building starting this coming fall. And tomorrow there's an open house at the building from 1:30 to 3:30. So anybody who's not participating in the poetry workshop who wants to come by and see what's going on there, you really should come take a look. It's kind of amazing. So with that, I just want to again thank you all for coming and for this. I don't know what to call it. I don't know what I'm going to call it. A celebration of Eli, because it's more just, I don't know, a tribute to his life as an artist and to the artistic community that he loved being a part of. And with that, Ryan, you ready?
Yeah. Woo. Thank you so much, Dorothy. Hey everybody, thank you so much for coming out. My name is Ryan Thorson Carson. I'm a poet and community organizer from Brooklyn, New York. Eli was my closest friend. So first of all, thank you so much for being here. In true Eli fashion, it's pretty incredible that today's reading is happening the day after the birthday of the poet and fiction writer Roberto Bolaño. So at this point, I feel like everybody has heard to death about Eli and I's relationship with Roberto Bolaño, and everybody has seen our multiple tattoos because of Roberto Bolaño. But I would like to say that, just generally speaking, what Bolaño was interested in as a writer, his kind of literary project, is this idea of elevating a community. So being here tonight is absolutely incredible for me because I am experiencing that community and I'm experiencing the real life work and project that Eli took on after the fact. So Eli, to me, as my closest friend, was this steward of this relationship to art this idea that he took from Bolaño of community. And tonight we're going to be seeing a lot of that community and the amazing, amazing work that Eli brought out of others. And so I'm very excited to share that with all of you. So I'm going to read first, and then we'll be going to Abe afterwards. So I'll just get started. So I'm going to start with a piece that I didn't know existed until yesterday. And it's writing that Eli actually wrote about me. And then I will be reading some of my work about Eli. So this one's called Ryan in the Dark Bar. I apologize for being late and sit down at the table. Ryan says, it's okay, and I blame it on the trains, but it's not true. I could have met him here at this bar on time if I had left my house earlier, but I was sitting on my bed worrying that I was an agoraphobic. While I was late, Ryan was in this dark bar. He got a beer and a shot of well whiskey, which both of us can drink without grimacing. He read a little book of love poems. Before he was at the bar, he was at home worrying that he was claustrophobic, emotionally speaking, and that he has a girlfriend and it isn't really working. Before, I was worrying about being agoraphobic. I was worrying about being lazy, but forgave myself on account of a hangover. When I sit down at the table, I say the thing which is always the first thing I say to people, like a warning. I haven't eaten yet today. It is 6 p.m. I've eaten twice in the last 3 days. 2 slices of pizza and an omelet. Ryan has eaten 4 times. Bodega egg sandwiches for breakfast, different things for dinner. Ryan is worried he's starting to gain too much weight. I am worried I am an anorexic. My heart is racing and I feel a little sick. I get sick if I don't drink by 5. My heart is always racing. It worries me. I asked Ryan about the little book of love poems. I realize it's by somebody we know. I think, good for them, and feel a little jealous. While Ryan was reading the poems earlier, he also thought, good for them, and felt jealous. But less because they have a book out, and more because the poems are portraying more precisely what he wishes he could say or feel about love in regard to his relationship in its state of not working. In a week, when I borrow it from him, I will feel jealous because I think the poems are better than mine, and also sad and very lonely because I don't feel that way towards anyone at the moment, and more urgently, no one feels that way for me. At the table next to us, a man is kissing the bartender's stomach. The bartender is laughing and putting his hands in the man's hair. I think they must be old friends. I wish the bartender would go back behind the bar so I could order a drink. Before I got here, Ryan was listening to the conversation at the table next to us while his mind wandered off the book of poems. They're getting so drunk so early because one of them just lost his job and his girlfriend, which were somehow linked. They're not as happy as they look. Ryan wonders what his life will look like on the other side of this breakup. It's bleak. So now I'm going to read some of my own work. This is from a chapbook of mine that will be coming out sometime this year. All the poems are about Eli, and it's a chapbook called Everything Lasts Forever. This one's called Allergies, and it's for Eli Todd. Used to keeping my head down. I walk in the woods a lot. The way that distractions isolate themselves from anticipation. I loved when traveling. I see see them by performing menial tasks, watching an offbeat sitcom, masturbating, trying to remember the stops of the G train to your house. These are all similar to walking in the woods with your head down, like being in the cave. But the cave isn't so bad, but I have several concerns. I want to do to you what the winter does to the window panes. The forest will be soot, the atoms will fray. You should go, but you shouldn't go. Caress my animate carcass under pollen curtains, which catches the sun, everything in bloom, and is the sun, and waves, which don't end, but pollen does. In my throat, when I cough into you. Eli says, I don't have any more nails to throw at you, but if I did, I would throw them at you, with hands too cold to write, disassembling this wooden New England, cracking with cold panes filled with last season's pollen. This one's called The Prophet Eli. It's for Anna Lawrence. I'd give you more nails to throw at me, if you could pull your atoms off of me, to unbound like wool, smoke on a winter scarf. I can't shred the digital shroud I keep picturing, the photo of you upon a bunker of metaphysical ramparts blazing, a garland of color, of the dehydrated, gasping highways of the north, and the spiteful orneriness of those that live there. I'm glad Anna and I let you climb deserted satellite stalagmites while we pitched rolling rocks at the sky that you rode like a satellite, despite the satellite being grounded. Gravity's winds carried cans to the whipping, rabid sea, frost that crystallized, your rocking nausea, seasick on 6 scenes. Your love was finding a box of timeless chapbooks with horrific annotations and water damage, with the news received in a windowless room. We shotgunned, the clocks blinked in the pavement sighs, letters clattered to the floor. So that was actually a poem about this really fun experience that Eli, Anna, and I had where we broke into this abandoned military facility that used to host the Project MK Ultra, if you're familiar with that. It's a great weekend. Anywho, this next poem is called Oat Lang Syne. It was written on New Year's of this year. Eli Todd notes that the human condition is a narcissistic morphing of morality and rapture. When he died, he would not end. The world would end. There are no answers to any questions, just 2 million drunk New Yorkers getting ready to sing Auld Lang Syne out of tune. The ice is muddy, the dam doesn't reflect the fireworks, but does crack the sky. Fucking poets are going to the poetry project. My letters don't stick, just clatter to the floor. The seagulls scream beside the wharf. This one's untitled. The dream lounging, cantina shades, and I ask what it is like to be dead. You shrug, just like anything else. This one's called Quarterly Yelps, and it's after Bologna for Eli Todd 1. This is from a chapbook of mine that was published last year. 1. The fact that there is a red guard in New York City carrying the quarterly yelps of the last roar of the yawp, entangled on the ashes of the cigarettes on the poets beholding New York City, that old bastion of civilization. You never glimpsed, but you dreamed of in sweaty sheets of the Senora Desert, placeless due simply to economic philosophy, echoing in the halls of academia, but that you despised, so civil, yet destructive, as the impulse to write surely is, listening for crackles in the silence, the void where words could fall but are left imperceptible by the placeness and the nausea to be literary. Eli is squelching in the kitchen of 953, a headache that is never elapsing, a constant headache, if you will. The nausea of the quest, a monk playing the lottery for the scratching of nausea. 2. We're in the sands of drunkenness, stumbling and grasping at cattails, hollering at the sky for reminding me of my size. Whatever. If my skin burns worse because I'm drunk. Oh, the fight? Don't even get me on the subject of the fight. Only literary in the way that to look at anything and to be moved to anger is to be a poet in America. To use one's will as language, my vocabulary anthologizes me. If there were a field here, holy shit, could we lay in it? So this is my last poem. So this one's actually an older one. So on my 22nd birthday, several of the people in this room and some of my great friends from Eastern Massachusetts went camping with us. And there's this cranberry bog that Eli really loved that's near my parents' house. And there was this one night where, you know, it had a couple too many and decided that we were going to go to this cranberry bog, and Eli wanted to try and jump across it. He didn't. He landed inside of the cranberry bog. And the other great point about Eli is that he always loved having other people write about him, which is why tonight's so great. And specifically, there were times where Eli would take me places, specifically in the thoughts and this is something that Anna, I wasn't really aware of until Anna told me, was that Eli would plan places to take me in the hopes that I would write a poem that would mention Eli. So this is appropriately called, Yo, so many poems are going to be written about tonight. When I retell this story, only 5 minutes later, but still totally worth the retelling, I'm already thinking about what everyone was saying earlier in the evening, see above. I don't think Eli had any idea what was going to happen. I mean, later he said he did it, but because he knew it was dumb and it was a certain poet's birthday, he was going to do it. He probably thought that someone would write a poem about it. I have to stress how cliche writing a poem about your drunk experiences with your friends are. Drunken nights is to undergrad poetry as pennants are to baseball teams. So Eli begins barreling through the space-time continuum, sucking in all the air, hoping it will somehow allow him to float across the chasm. The chasm gapes and flirts with the tumultuousness of feeling of being. The chasm is the moat of the cranberry bog. The epiphany Eli has in the instant that his feet spin the earth on its rotation tells him to get a shotgun and become a metaphysician. Eli spins each atom on the imprints of his Converse. Eli opens reality at the seams. He tries to hit the next button. Where's a poet in all this? Well, he's everywhere, for he is I, of course. As a writer of this poem, I get the distinct privilege of being every single I put down on the page. I is the evaporated molecule of the collective simultaneous subconscious, by which I mean I was drunk. On poetry, you know, like Baudelaire. So, like the poet was saying, Eli is accelerating with force, and he can feel the presence of the bog, the totality of the entire New England fall that is contained within his shoelaces. Eli looks over his shoulder and takes in the sight of his friends lackadaisically drinking beers, watching him stare down the dripping fury of the emptiness of a blazing night sky. He didn't do any of this in real life, but he did it in the poem. The poem is what matters. As predicted by the fates in anything you've ever heard in an undergrad poetic party context, Eli hits the water of the bog, experiencing the inverse of the womb. The levees that hold back all being from flooding into his being open up and allow nowness into his being, which sucks. His body suffocates in a million todays. He feels like God does in that Jim Carrey movie. He realizes his life will forever be written in varsity font, which horrifies and comforts him. The onlookers, me, but not the me that is experiencing all this rush forward at once, running towards the bog while announcing they have to leave. We broke into the bog after all, or not broke into it, but lifted the latch on the barbed wire fence. Eli is wet, and hours before vacating his body and all the toxins of nowness onto the hardwood floor of the world in some poet's kitchen, he gets up onto the opposite bank, but realizes that he is on the opposite bank and must get to the opposite bank. This is all very confusing, and is further confusing the poet. This confusion is apparent by the lack of clarity in the prose of this poem or short story or whatever. It is then that he realizes he will have to do all this again. He gets into a crouch and prepares to tangle himself into the pulse of all that is and is not sentient. He leaps. Luckily, he lands without experiencing any of the previous side effects. So thank you so much. So you guys are stuck with me all night. I'm hosting this. So next up, I want to call up Abe Todd. Abe, I adore Abe, and I adore Abe for how responsible he is for making Eli cool the few times that he was cool. Eli often would slip into this moment where he would admit that all the bands he liked were just kind of these bands that Abe had told him to listen to in high school. Wolf Parade is a really great example of this. I was on a road trip with Eli going down to Miami, and we were listening to Wolf Parade, and he just goes, he's like, I really hate to admit it, but Abe is way cooler than I give him credit for. And he's like, I would never say that to his face, but Abe is very much responsible for my personal development. So I would like to invite Abe Todd up.
I want to introduce this story and how I was introduced to it, which is we were on a trip to Chicago, my family, and we were staying at Hannah's apartment there. And as per usual, we stayed up late drinking because that's what you do when you hang out with Eli. And Eli had, so this was a Saturday night, Eli had a reading the next morning back in New York. And so he wanted to go over with Hannah and I the story he was planning on reading. And so he was going to read it to us and we were going to give him advice. So, and that's what we did. And we stayed up until probably 3 in the morning, going back and forth, trading ideas, telling what we thought was good, what wasn't good. I don't know how much of that kind of was remembered because none of us were that sober. But we felt really good about it by the end. And so in true Eli fashion, he slept right through his flight the next morning and totally missed his reading. So all our advice was for naught, other than the good experience we had of critiquing his work. So this is that story, with or without our edits, I'm not sure. I work in the public library destroying books. For 6 hours a day, I stand in the basement over 2 trash cans, or trash barrels really, given their size. I use a box cutter. It's a lot like shucking oysters. That's how I can best describe it. I open the book and make 2 quick slits along the binding. Then I pull out the pages and throw them in one barrel and put the covers in the other one. It's just like shucking oysters, only you throw everything away. I can keep whatever books I like, but mostly they're bad books. If they're in good enough condition, I keep them and sell them to the used bookstore. I only destroy hardcover books. They take up the most space. Sometimes I go help mop the floors. The head of maintenance is very old. He has a handful of teeth or less. They stick crooked out of his gums. He is very nice, but it is difficult to understand him when he speaks. Sometimes he just leaves a note on the side of the mop bucket telling me where to go. Some days, we just go out back and smoke cigarettes when we should be working. I follow his lead. He's worked here a long time. Most days, when I'm working with him and not down in the basement destroying books, we split the 3 floors. I mop in the stacks, he mops in the reading and CD listening rooms. We mop the bathrooms. He mops the men's room, he tells me to mop the ladies' room and check the bins for nasty stuff. He gets uncomfortable talking about things like that. Sometimes there are little empty liquor bottles or even needles in the trash cans. Most days I don't mop, I just destroy books. Most days after work, my friend Bradford picks me up. He works as a security guard at the art museum the city runs. We got off at the same time. Bradford is tall and wears black boots. Sometimes he has a limp in his left leg, other times he walks fine. He picks me up in a Volvo he bought from his stepbrother. The paint is peeling around the wheel wells. Sometimes smoke comes through the air vents and we have to roll down the windows even in the winter. When he picks me up, there's always a case of beer in the trunk. I give him 2 tablets of my medication to cover my half of the beer, and then we drive to the parking lot near the Civic Center and walk down to the bridge. Today, Bradford says, I have something to show you. We're sitting in his car in the parking lot. Bradford is smoking a cigarette hand-rolled in an elegant cone. I am smoking filtered cigarettes. Bradford smokes more than me, but less than the old janitor in the library. Okay, I said. I decide to grin. Show me. Not yet, Bradford says. It's somewhere else. Oh, I say. That's okay. I follow him down the path behind the Civic Center. The beer is in a brown paper bag. I hold it against my chest. Usually we drink until it gets dark, skipping stones on the skinny river under the bridge, and then we go home. There's a lot of trash on the path. Empty soda and liquor bottles, bags of chips. This makes me think that other people must come down here, but I've never seen anyone besides me and Bradford. Maybe there are furtive teenagers watching from the woods. Sometimes when the barrels get full and I wheel them out to the dumpsters, I catch teenagers back there smoking pot. I tell them they should be more careful and they shuffle their feet. Sorry, sir. Then I hear them giggling when I go back inside. Once there was a man asleep back there. I yelled at him to get up, but he didn't move. When I came out a few hours later, he was gone. We walk across the tall concrete wall that you have to cross to get under the bridge. I always let Bradford cross all the way before I get on. It's narrow. I assume one of these days, one of us will fall and break our arms on the rocks. In my mind, it's always Bradford falling. I always have to carry the beer, which I don't think is quite fair, but I also have never complained. Bradford doesn't stop under the bridge where we usually stop, where the rocks are worn smooth and good for skipping. I stop there and put the beer down. Bradford beckons me. What, I say. That thing, he says, that I wanted to show you. Oh, right, I say, that thing. We walk through the tall brush. I can't tell if we're on a path. The grass seems flattened here, here and there, but we zigzag, apparently without regard. I lose sight of my friend. There is rustling all around me. I have a brief sense of being surrounded. My friend, I say, I can't see you. He shushes me loudly. I think through clenched teeth. He is right next to me, crouched over a little suitcase. His hands are raised up like he's trying to catch a toad before it hops away. What's in there? I whisper. This is what I wanted to show you, he says, in a regular voice. He unzips the suitcase, and inside is a boy. I think the boy must be about 14. His hair is cut very short, almost shaved. He is naked except for a pair of very small red gym shorts. I don't understand how he fits in there. He must fill up every inch of that suitcase. There's a smell like the river where it flows slowly. He is so asleep he doesn't notice us unzipping his home, looming and gaping over him. He's a runt, Bradford said. He's smoking a cigarette. I hope no ash falls on the boy. When we get back to the bridge, our beer is gone. Bradford admonishes me. I left it right here, I say, pointing to the spot where I put the bag down. I know that, Bradford says. The problem is that someone took it. I pick up a rock and get 7 skips down the river. That is a pretty good amount, given how fast the current is right now. A man, Bradford says, bracing himself against the leg of a bridge, should guard his property. The next day, I destroy 326 books and mop the second floor stacks. The stacks have glass floors and are always the coolest part of the library. I don't know why the old janitor avoids them. I also don't know why certain books are chosen to be destroyed. Some of them have not been taken out in decades or in tatters or cover sensitive material in insensitive ways, but others are fairly new or have been taken out many times recently. Each day, I am able to destroy more books. I'm becoming more efficient. When the old janitor brings me the third part of books, he says, "Good job," or at least I think that's what he says. I decide that's what he said and grin. When I started this job, sometimes my arms would get tired from all the slicing. That doesn't bother me anymore. The muscles in my wrists and the back of my arms have gotten very big. Once, I struggled with a set of dictionaries and had to take a break for a few minutes, but other than that, it hasn't been much trouble. Today, I find 2 books that I think the used bookstore might buy. I hope that one day I will see someone sitting on a bench in a park reading one of the books I sold them. I won't say anything, I'll just think, I saved that book from under my knife, and now you are enjoying it, and smile to myself. Bradford doesn't pick me up after work. That's okay. He doesn't pick me up every day after work, just most. I don't know what he does on those other days. Maybe he goes to the river and drinks on his own. Maybe he skips rocks. I take the 2 extra tablets of medication I have that night and sleep very well. I dream that the boy in the suitcase is sleeping on a huge stack of hardback book covers, so tall it reaches up over the bridge. When Bradford picks me up the next day, he says that he has something he wants to show me again. His car gives an extra cough when he turns the engine over. A little smoke comes out of the grill. Is it the boy in the suitcase, I say? Yes, Bradford says, but no. Instead of going over the wall, we go around the back end of the Civic Center. It gets very narrow. The Civic Center sits at the top of a flood wall that protects the city from the river. I estimate the wall at 30 feet tall. That is a long way to fall. Bradford stops me and points at the brush beneath us. I can see the base of the bridge where we drink from here. This is a nice view of the river, I say. It is, Bradford says, but look where I'm pointing. The brush is stirring all around, like a dozen little critters are blind dashing through it. Towards the center is the suitcase, the grass around it packed flat. The old janitor from the library is cutting through the bush. He leaves a hamburger box and a soda next to the suitcase. When he lives, a snaky little arm comes out and grabs them. So that's how he eats, I say. Starvation, Bradford says, cupping his chin, is an awful way for a man to die. Your body starts to break itself down, it eats your fat and your muscles. Eventually it'll break down your own tongue, and in extreme circumstances, parts of the eyeball. I decide to nod seriously. We go back down under the bridge to drink. Bradford skips a stone 12 times. 12 is his record. Mine is 10. I think that someone is watching us. I tell Bradford, I think there's eyes on us. He gives me a bad look. I sip my beer. While Bradford tries to beat his record, I look up into the trestles of the bridge. The boy is up there. I can't see his eyes, but I might imagine them dark and stork-like. He is very thin, but even so, I don't understand how he fits in that suitcase. He must fill up every inch. When me and Bradford get back to the parking lot, there is a crowd. They are circled around something bright. We sit on the wooden fence at the edge of the lot and take out our last 2 beers. The people are gathered around Bradford's car. It's on fire. We sip our beers and watch the flames spread from the hood to the driver's seat. and I am glad to have a friend.
All right, so. Well, good thing I can project. Hold on, would like to figure this out. Anywho, so next up we have Robert Smith. So Robert is a close friend of mine and a very close friend of Eli's as well. Robert is, unfortunately, shares a name with the frontman of The Cure, and this is something that has become a regular problem in Robert's day-to-day life because of that. And I would like to hereby apologize for all the times that Eli and I made jokes that were Cure references. And I'm sorry for bringing it up right now. So next up, Robert Smith.
Hello. I was a close friend and former roommate of Eli's, and I was also in his thesis writing workshop with him our senior year of college. So I'm going to read one piece from his thesis, and then I'm going to read the opening of another piece from his thesis. And the first thing I'm going to read is called Hex. It's the shortest piece in his thesis. I think it's a good encapsulation of the whole thing. I think he was like really affectionate towards this piece, so that's also why I want to read it. But I think it addresses like the whole like spiritual and like supernatural undercurrent that like goes through this style of writing that's like really rooted in realism and like just character relationships otherwise. And I think it's like really representative of like the themes he was getting into and like the sort of people he was writing about. So, all right. Hex. We take the long road out to the quarry, not because we want to put off getting there or because we don't want someone to see us, just because that feels like the way to go, through the fields with fog rising out of the bramble. My bike tires fling dirt up in the middle of my back, and when Magda cuts me off, I get dirt in the front of me too. The air is heavy and static, my tires are half flat, and it's warm, and today we're going to curse someone. We have to walk the bikes from here, Magda says. The road is abruptly unpaved and angled steeply up, pocked with stones. The dirt is hard packed and looks wet. I bet I can ride up it, I say. Magda laughs and gets off her bike. Her skirt gets caught as she dismounts, and it tears some when she pulls it off with the chain. I start pumping my way up, standing on the pedals, throwing my weight into each downturn. I get maybe 10 or 15 feet before my tires catch in a soft patch and I lose momentum. Magda walks right by me, holding her Schwinn by the handlebars while I try to pull myself out from under the bike. She's very serious about these kind of things. My knee has a few deep scratches and blood wells up in the cuticle of my ring finger. I hold my hand and show Magda. Now it's blood magic. She doesn't look at me, but she smiles. The blood and the dirt dry and all sweaty by the time we get to the quarry. I stick my nose in my armpit and say, I smell foul. I think it smells nice, Magda says. No, I smell awful. It smells nice here. Like the stagnant water gathered at the bottom of the quarry, rich with algae. And like the brush rotting at the bases of the trees. We haven't come here in a while. Better part of a year, even though Magda claims it is one of her favorite spots for this kind of ritual. Isolated, and the site of a trauma to the earth, an excavation. We discovered it early on, Magda fishes a joint out of her backpack and we smoke while she unloads the rest of her stuff. Little Ziploc bags and cloth pouches filled with sticks, leaves, animal bones, dried animal scat. 2 little wooden bowls and pestles marked with concentric circles of alternating red and white script. A wine bottle, a little gasoline, some styrofoam. She grinds herbs and incantates while I mix the firebomb. I shake the bottle until the styrofoam and Magda's powder has disappeared. Do you have a rag, I say? I think we forgot a rag. Magda holds up one finger while she finishes her hex and then says, "No, I thought you were bringing it. Didn't I leave it at your house?" I was supposed to bring it. I can't tell if she's being passive-aggressive or honestly forgot she left it there. Probably just forgot. She gets very absorbed when she's working. "I don't know," I say. "Sorry, I didn't even think to look. That's my bad. Is it okay if we just use something else?" "I had markings on the rag," she says. She bites the end of the pestle, the way she bites whatever is in her hand when she's thinking. "I think it'll be fine. I only have the white paint here, so I can't mark anything else, not without the red. But I think it should be fine. We have to try. It's gotta be today. I felt the energy building for a week. It has to be here, definitely here. Even I can feel that. It's calmer here than anywhere I've been in months. Calmer even than the last time we cursed someone in the shack by the reservoir. The colors here are vivid as a psychedelic painting. The animal sounds around us all quieted to a low, blanketing humming. I tear off my sleeves and stuff them in the mouth of the bottle. Magda is still working, so I walk to the room at the quarry. There's some rusted machinery down there, perched on one of the flat columns of stone. Once it played some part in slicing out the earth into utilitarian stone cubes. It looks menacing even in its decrepit state, with parts that look like buzzsaws and cannons. About 40 feet down into the quarry from here. I could maybe survive that fall. I kick some rocks in and watch bullfrogs startle at the bottom. "Okay, who should we curse?" Magda says. She's kneeling over the bowls, sweater sleeves rolled up high on her arms, showing scars and runic stick and pokes. I lay on my belly in the grass next to her while she arranges a geode next to the bowl so they form a triangle. "Let's curse the state senator." "Which one?" she says. "Either, they're both corrupt. They hate the environment." I stroke the largest crystal in the geode with my middle finger. It's so smooth it feels coated in olive oil or lube. Pale blue on the outside with a pattern that looks like milk spilling into water at its core. She finds the most amazing things. I got her a geode last summer as an Equinox present, one a little darker blue than this, and she was very gracious about it. We'll replace it with this one the next month. I didn't mind, I like her intuition. "Do you know their names?" I shrug and roll onto my back. "No, that's no good. Should be someone we were more connected to. I don't think she'd like it if it was someone we couldn't even name. There's a few people I'm connected to who could use a good hexing. Remember Guy? Who sublet at my place this winter? He gave me a check from a closed account for his last month's rent and disappeared. Put me out $300. And he took all my cereal and my one nice collared shirt on his way out. Yes, he told me when it happened, and once a week since. Be serious, that's petty, really petty, for this big an opportunity. You know, we might not even have until tonight. She wouldn't like us doing that. Also, you just lost that shirt. Well, I'd like it, I say. He's an asshole. I could probably say his name anyway if I wanted to, and Magda wouldn't even know. Only that's not true. She'd be able to tell. Magda just knows things. "What about Morgan Gluckman?" she says. I raise an eyebrow, not sure if I'm supposed to know who that is. He's the guy responsible for tearing down the old state asylum, trying to put a factory there. She leans over me, staring straight down in my face. "So, this place could use a little more industry. I'm all for more stuff, made in New England." "So they're going to make tank sites here there. Tons of e-waste. Give me your hand. I held out my palm and tried to say something, but Magda waves to say she's not done. I was going to suggest a real estate developer planning to replace a stretch of woods with a small-scale house farm near my grandma's place. Magda continues as she paints white runes on my hand. The worst part is that all the manufacturing is done by robots, and the rest tech guys from the West Coast, so it's not even bringing jobs into the community. Clearly this is who Magda had in mind from the second she planned this. The brush tickles my palm, and I pull up a clump of grass to keep from giggling. It's nice of her to humor me. She never tells me what to do outright. Truthfully, I hadn't given a lot of thought to who we should target. The developer is, I suppose, a local small business owner. All right, you win, Morgan Gluckman. Let's get the bastard. Magda blows on the paint and gives my hand a squeeze. Thanks, she says. You sure you don't want to try this time? No. She doesn't like talking to me, just to you. She tried before with no results, just some burns and wasted materials. If Magda was at all disappointed by the failure, she never showed it. I really don't think she was. She loved every aspect of these things, no matter how arbitrary the rules and machinations some seemed. And anyways, I was hopeless at mixing potions and pronouncing chants. Magda pours a little gasoline into my cupped hand and lights it. New burns form over the scar tissue, and I hold my burning palm to the Molotov fuse. I smash it on the geode, and sticky flames wash over the bowls. She comes up out of the fire, just for a moment, but it feels longer, or indefinite, like sleep. I feel cool and achy, like I've been lying in a cold, stiff bed for days. My mouth is so dry, the skin on my hard palate cracks. I tell her everything, babbling to her in indefinite form in a language that I don't know. Raised up on the balls of my feet, I beg her to curse Morgan Gluckman. She flares down and smolders into the pit again, and I fall over. Magda helps me to my feet, and once I'm done hacking up bile, says, "How'd it go?" Good. She knew who I was talking about, or it seemed like she did. I'll watch the news, we'll see. We smoke another joint and wash the bowls with water from our Nalgene's, scouring the soup with our hands. When we're done, Magda grabs my wrist and smiles at me. We pack everything into her bag and kick dirt over the pit. Magda picks up her bike and walks into the main road. I pedal across the dirt after her, catching up the cusp of the hill, and side by side we coast through the thick afternoon towards the highway. That's X. I'm just going to read the first 2 pages of a piece called Pusher that I just thought was one of my favorite pieces from this thesis. And I remember in class when I had to read this to workshop it, I was really struck by it. And a scene here and just the way he grounds you in setting and uses it to really build tension. So Jamie's little brother is on dope, and we're gonna find out who's responsible. I get the call right after I leave the mechanic, and I'm upset. I was already upset about the car, the $212 needed to fix it that I didn't have. Now I'm upset about Ron shooting dope. He's a good kid, not the best kid, but a good kid, and it's not right. I want to express my anger and disappointment, so after Jamie hangs up, I kick a snowbank and yell, "Fuck." But I'm not good at yelling. It makes me uncomfortable. So instead I just say "fuck" pretty loudly while I kick the snowbank. Snow flies up in a little fantail and blows away. On the phone, Jamie said he wanted me to come over. "I'm walking to my house," I said, by which I meant my mother's house, which is what I've been trying to call it to motivate myself to move out. "Okay," Jamie said. "We'll walk here instead." "Why are you walking?" "It's cold as a motherfucker out. And don't you have to work?" I said, really? It's one and the same problem. I'd stopped in the middle of the road. My car broke down. Damn, Jamie said. I guess you gotta walk here. So after I kick the snowbank, I turn around and start walking to Jamie's. It's really not far. Nothing is especially far from the mechanics, which is the center of town by the inn, the general store, and now also the new store in the old firehouse building that sells crafts and trinkets at confusingly high prices. I feel a tickle of nervousness about going to Jamie's, which is weird because Jamie's is a space of unnervousness, a hallowed ground of patience. I try to breathe slowly in through my nose, now through my mouth, something a guidance counselor told me to do. The air's so cold it sends an awful burn up through my nostrils. On Jamie's street, I see two dogs fighting. The owners seem like they know each other. I don't know them. The dogs look awful, two black pit bulls with swollen stomachs straining at the ends of their leashes. They make sounds like industrial machinery. When I was 9, a pit bull bit me so bad I had to get stitches. I fucking hate pit bulls. They're in the middle of the street. I can't get past them without entering their biting radius, and snow is high on the side of the roads. Too high to get around the dogs without making a scene, scrabbling in the banks. The owners grip their leashes with both hands. They dig in their heels and pull with their knees and shoulders. I can see bits of dreadlocked hair tufted out from their hoods and weird patches on their jackets, all red and white writing that I can't make out. One has asshole spray painted in all caps and gold across the back. An anarchy sign standing in for the A. Travelers. Must have rode in on the freight and camped somewhere in town. Although who knows why they got off here in the middle of January. They talk to their dogs in low, firm voices. What the fuck are you looking at, asshole says. He's riding them up staring at him like that, the other says. It's his goddamn fault. I don't see how it's my fault at all. Both of them are looking at me. They have tattoos on their faces, webbing out from their eyes over their cheeks and foreheads. The pit bulls go quiet and stare at me too. It's very quiet. Snow blows out of the trees and shimmers psychedelic in the low sun. I decide not to say anything. Even though it's not my fault their shitty dogs are fighting. They pull on the leashes and leave, disappearing behind the boxy Presbyterian church on the corner. I stay shuffling the street for a few minutes before walking the rest of the way to Jamie's to make sure I don't catch up with them.
All right, thank you so much, Robert. So next up, we are going to be having Renee, who I believe, I'm sorry, Renee, I don't really know your last name. I think it's Brasnell, is that correct? Where's Renee? Yeah? No? Yeah? Is that true? Yes? Not sure? Okay, perfect. Renee, I only had the pleasure of meeting Renee very recently, of course under tragic circumstances, but had heard about her before. Eli, as I'm sure everybody in this room knows, mythologized Northampton in this really incredible way. So it was really incredible to meet somebody who was part of this mythology. It was like meeting Zeus. So next up we have Renee. Thank you so much, Renee.
This is a piece I wrote late at night, trying to make sense of this loss. Recent searches, insomnia, racing thoughts, 2:30 a.m. There's a lingering sense of having misbehaved, being unable to sleep at this time. I see so many beautiful things in my mind that I want to bring outside of myself, but cannot, due to my own laziness or abject lack of talent. Is talent exclusive from laziness? Is that what natural talent or gifted refers to? You were gifted, E. I never call you that when you are still here, but have developed a fondness for the name your father calls you. I like how a name ocean, whole worlds and ecosystems existing beneath the beautiful horizon of flesh? Did you simply dive in too deep, get lost in some underwater volcano where the lava has stiffened into cascading castles under the sea? Did it turn into the sky on the bottom? I have a sense you're everywhere but nowhere at all at the same time. You and I always connected on our appreciation of the absurd. You being gone is absurd. Getting to the point in my grief where I am considering very strongly to go stare right in the porcelain eye of the inappropriately massive and looming statue of Jesus that is now my neighbor. This is absurd because I am adamantly an unbaptized heretic, a worshiper of the trees, the wind, and the sea. But I cannot stop thinking that what I need to do right now at 2:44 a.m. is take a cigarette and go stare in that suggestive statue's face. No, I do not believe I am a born again. I don't even believe that this is so-called immaculate conception, blah, 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 is real. I'm an empirical thinker, for God's sakes. But man, whoever carved that stone had talent.
All right, next up in the local legends bracket, we have the amazing Lily Smith. So Lily is another one of those people that I heard so much about from Eli. And she's an Eli was always overwhelmed with the amount of praise that he could heap upon her brilliance. And I would agree with every one of those opinions. So thank you, Lily Smith.
So I just read this for the first time recently, so I apologize in advance. I do no good. It's called Sweet Boy. The manager of the Pro Lube and Car Wash tells me I just want to get a better sense of who you were before I knew you. It makes me uncomfortable him saying this. He took my number off a receipt and texted me out of the blue. When he'd asked me why I'd come back here, I told him things were getting bad where I was living, so I came home, which was a non-answer, and by which I meant someone had died. But I didn't feel like he had earned that information, so he asked another question, and then told me he wanted to know me before he knew me. If I felt like it, I could feel intruded upon. Pride at. He is buying. This was not here when I moved away, which is maybe why we are here. I have very little at stake with the manager of the Pro Lube. No one has seen us together, by which I mean no one who either of us knows. I will not see him again after tonight, when he will drive me to the empty lot behind the lumberyard, behind the street again, although he will text me again and again asking if I'm still in town. I will be awake in a bed in my parents' house, or waking up on a couch in my friend's apartment. Loose change and bobby pins stuck to my back. He will be at the counter at his store conducting a business I don't understand. Air filters, spark plugs, pistons, fuel lines. Sending furtive messages between customers and erasing them as soon as they are sent. I don't feel any need to be honest with him because he had lied to me twice. First, he told me he got my number from a friend. This lie was endearing. When I asked him last night about the rings on his finger, he told me that he and his boyfriend had an understanding. This lie was clumsy and tired. I tell him before you knew me, I was working a job where I didn't understand what I was doing. It came across more coy than I intended. I tell him I worked at an office and helped organize things for a group that I hoped was doing some good for some people. Maybe I'm more specific. Tonight, after I get out of his car and cross the parking lot and go down to the bar where I know faces warm and familiar, he will sit in his driveway with the headlights out until whoever is waiting for him inside gets worried. Tonight, I will go home, but first I will sit on the steps of my parents' house, which is close to but not the house I grew up in and regret quitting smoking. Politely, my parents will tell me they'd prefer if I didn't stay much longer. I'll consider showing up at the manager's house. I've been going to that shop since I was in high school. I have not told my parents about the person who died. I told them I needed to come home for a little while. When the manager asks me again why I'm back, I'm feeling more honest. I've stopped pretending to try and pay for my drinks. I tell him somebody died. He says, "Were you close?" I didn't know them until they died. His face is in a lot of places since he died. On friends' walls, over bar counters, in laundromats, cafes, online fundraisers. His face was a lot of places when he was alive also. Restaurants, skate parks, shows, meetings, his parents' house, Prose. After he died, some people came to my friend's house. They handed out condoms and nalazone and talked about violence. Someone sobbed so hard their nose bled. My friend called the person who died sweet boy and kissed the picture of him hanging on the wall messily. There are things I will think about on the drive from the bar to the lot behind the lumber yard. I was someone important before you knew me, I tell the manager. I'm feeling dishonest now. I think about what I could do to disgust this man, and I disgust myself. When I move back to where I came from, I will find a better job. I will drive fast down a dirt road in the woods at night with my headlights out. My parents will take their car to the Pro Loop. When I get back, I won't talk about when I moved home, but we will all talk about a sweet boy who died. I will see things behind me like something very bright, very fast, very small.
Thank you so much, Laura. So they say that behind every great writer, there's a really great high school English teacher. So something, and I've heard this on numerous occasions from a lot of my peers, that there was always this one amazing English teacher that just got somebody into reading and writing. I never had this, and so this makes me very bitter. It makes me think that I could be a much better writer if I had this. So with that being said, I would like to invite Ernie up to the stage. Ernie was Eli's high school English teacher and somebody that Eli looked up to very much. So Ernie.
I'd just like to say that I was a fiction writer long before I was a teacher. And I can assure people in the audience that there are thousands or hundreds of terrific writers who have really crummy English teachers.
Thank you.
And I have no shame. So I'm a big believer in fighting fire with fire. So Chris Gonzalez called me about Eli. I think I actually started writing something then. But it's a little different from what's read, but bear with me. It's called Seek. It's true, growing old is a bit. We seek. We are the Garden of Eden. How many have dreamed of it? Can you recall the last time you walked naked for days? We seek. end of the rainbow, the last horizon, and then the door. Endless music, dancing, bowls of communal ambrosia, matte carpets like celestial bumper cars. We seek in houses of worship that don't work for some, and others seek new places for mercy and pageantry, in parks, in basements, in open mic venues with hip hop over galaxies. We seek. Sometimes what we seek is not in the mirror, it's not down the street, it's not next door, it's not in the drink, it's not in the joint. Where is it? Play a CD, go to a show, go to a concert. You play the record, you listen to that song, and from that song, God is full of words, and they thunderous love to you. Or, you go to the used bookstore, the bookshelf, you get the book, you open a page, and it's a new magical world. Exactly what you were looking for. But sometimes you open a door and out comes iridescent magicians, wizards, and they're ready to play super strip poker. And after you lose your chips, you play for the skin. And after you lose the skin, you play for the bones. And after you are out of bones, you go for the marrow. And after the marrow, all you've got left is the soul. So you bear your soul. Crazies! What will you trade your soul for? You find yourself going down a tunnel. And then an elevator, up. Now you are on the tightrope. Ah, you love the tightrope. It's such a performance. A step, a millimeter, centimeter off, and you're gone. You step. It's so silvery, so scintillating, so beautiful. And far down, you have the mosh pit. And in the mosh pit, oh, there's Van Gogh and Janis Joplin. There's Kurt Cobain, Basquiat, and a whole bunch of other people bumping and grinding and dancing and prancing. And you are sweating moonlight, and you hear Pluto barking, and suddenly 1,000 hounds and little wolves come running after Pluto. But you perform, you're still on the tightrope, way on the edge. And it's too bad the social geometry is so tilted to the outside. We seek over there, Brooklyn, Portland, Bangkok, Tokyo, Buenos Aires, Mexico City, you name it. I wish you'd focus more in your life on the inner aurora borealis, saw every time you smiled.
Thank you so much, Ernie. So next up, we have Anna Lawrence. Anna is a very near and dear friend of mine, one of my closest friends in the entire world. Anna was probably the person that Eli loved most in the world. Somebody that, aside from just the time that they dated, Eli spent so much time talking about how brilliant and amazing Anna is, and she really is all of that, an unbelievably talented artist, and an unbelievably kind and amazing person, and somebody I'd be lost without. So I would like to welcome Anna Lawrence to the stage.
So I'm going to read the last poem Eli ever sent me, and it was written in Cape Cod last summer. I am sleeping in a bunked bed. What I think is maybe there's some amount of some things I am. A fear, I think, primal. But wow, next to wide water and the strength of something deep. Not wide deep, just like internal. My family, my friends. What I wish on you is what I wish on you. I can write and write on you. I have lapped my own running self. I hope you are sleeping well. I hope everything does you right. Wake, okay. Wake, all right. I'm believing with you.
All right, so next up, we're going to be having Nathan Ingham, and then we'll be taking a quick break for about 10 minutes, then reconvene for the second half of tonight's program. So Nathan Ingham is my roommate, somebody I adore, like few others. So Nathan was the drummer in the legendary Brooklyn punk band Luxury Condos. So let me tell you a little something about Luxury Condos. So Luxury Condos was formed in my living room shortly after Nate and I were in a band together in college. So the thing about Luxury Condos is I have the distinct pleasure of there's this in the punk world there's this tradition that is called First Blood. So First Blood is the first person who bleeds at your show. I was the first person to ever bleed at a Luxury Condo show. I broke my nose at Shea Stadium in Brooklyn, which is my favorite place in the world. So I have this very fond memory of Eli at a Luxury Condo show where Nate was playing drums, which is, so the night that Hydrofracking was banned in New York State, something that I worked for years on, I got a little bit excited, a little bit drunk, and Luxury Condos was playing in Brooklyn that night, and I showed up at right before they launched into their last song, and there was this thing that I always did at all their shows where I would just yell, "Fuck you, Eli," every time they took the stage. And so I ran in and saw that they were about to start, and Eli was going on some monologue about capitalism, and so I ran in and was just like, "Fuck you, Eli!" And he just jumped off of the stage and gave me essentially the people's elbow, and broke my glasses, and also almost broke my nose for the second time in as many months. So I would like to welcome Nate to the stage. Nate is going to be playing some songs for us. I don't know, what's the best way to set this up, Nate? Come on up, let's figure this out together.
Just throw it on the old boy.
Nathan Ingham, ladies and gentlemen. Code. Oh, can I give one last little funny anecdote?
But
Yeah. So during the recording of the first, the Luxury Condos EP that was eventually didn't actually end up happening, there was this amazing moment with Nate and our good friend Joe George where they deceived Eli into believing that there was a sequel to the movie Cloverfield. And what's amazing about this is Eli never took the time to Google whether there was a Cloverfield 2 and would regularly bring up in casual conversations with others this movie Cloverfield 2 and this very passé cliche shot of the monster from Cloverfield running through the green monster in Fenway Park. And he would regularly bring this up to others. Literally the last time I saw Eli Todd, he mentioned Cloverfield too. So, Nathan Ingham, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Ryan. Thank you very much. Yeah, so as Ryan said, me and Eli were in a band together called Luxury Condos, and I played drums and he sang, so we didn't have to do any of the real work, which is really enjoyable. But we also, our favorite thing to do was have these acoustic practices where we just trade songs and think about what we could possibly cover. So I'm going to play a few cover songs that we never did or planned to do, but could have done, potentially. All right. This is a cut from the classic punk band X. So I was not planning on playing a Jawbreaker song, but if you knew Eli, you know that that's his favorite band, and they just reunited like 2 months ago, or a month ago. So I have to do one now. God damn it. It's like,
Take your time.
wait, no, I want to get the words right. Oh yeah, okay, I got it. There's stillness in the air, ripple sound. We're too smart to watch TV, we're too dumb to make believe. This is all we want from life. We're not too dumb to talk to you, you're so quick to listen to me, saying nothing you don't know, nothing you don't know. Walked out and now we'll be rerouted. If we don't go outside today, never will. Oh yeah. Too old not to get excited about raising Prose, Egyptian ruins, off a kiss. I'm too smart to watch TV, we're too dumb to make believe. This is all we want from life. Not too dumb to talk to you. You're so quick to listen to me, saying nothing you don't know. I love you more than I've ever loved anyone before or anyone to come. Someone said your name, thought of you alone. I was just the same, 20 blocks away. Than I've ever loved anyone before, anyone to come. Someone said your name, thought of you alone. I was just the same, 20 blocks away. So I'm just gonna play one more, and by the way, my set list has changed a lot today, so it's work in progress. But the last one I'm gonna play is a song by They Might Be Giants from their seminal album Flood. One of the albums we talked about on our last night with Eli, but it has the perfect combination of like sweet sentimentality and like nerdy notes. That's the best of They Might Be Giants. So let's see how it goes. We're in a road moving to Berlin.
Nathan Ingham, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you so much, Nate. 24-Hour Revenge Therapy is the greatest punk album of all time. You heard it here first, definitive statement. All right, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we will be reconvening with the great, the amazing Jack Snack Munchable. All right, guys, 10-minute break.
At the same time I was hosting those readings at my apartment. Am I talking in the microphone right? Can you guys hear me? Yeah, at the same time I was hosting the readings at my apartment, I was also hosting weekly readings at this bar in downtown Manhattan, and all of our friends would stop in sometimes, but Eli came more than anybody to both of them, and yeah, it always meant a lot to me, and yeah, he was just a really, really great friend. And I wanted to read this short little piece by him that he wrote when he was 7 years old, I believe. And it honestly convinced me of his natural talent as much as anything I've ever read by him. It's completely astonishing, not only the insanely precocious vocabulary that he had, but his supernatural understanding of the balance of language. And yeah, I had to Google one of these words, which is a name of a flower. So some of you may know it and some of you may not. It's by Eli. My favorite words are armadillo, platypus, maraca, python, pyramid, peninsula, chihuahua, penicillin. My favorite words are puma, cougar, emu, kiwi, zinnia, gopher. My favorite words are lynx, muskrat, scorpion, sturgeon. I found these in the dictionary. I wonder if they're in Pictionary. And the second thing I'm going to read is just, it's kind of an essay, more of a letter that I wrote to a friend and a teacher who taught both me and Eli while we were at Pratt about my experience going to the funeral. While we were, the whole weekend was kind of a blur, and while we were there, I lost my wallet. I lost my wallet at some point while up at the funeral. I don't remember how. My friends woke me 2 hours before the funeral to get food, but I had to go back to sleep because of how hungover I was. When I went back to sleep, I dreamed I was back in my apartment in Brooklyn on Nostrand, and Ryan and I were there, along with a few other people, and the walls were bleeding. Except that I knew it wasn't really blood. Somehow I knew that it was juice, that had come from the empty cup of juice in my hand, and that I had thrown it across the wall behind me. The juice blood was very red at first, and over time, while Ryan and I talked, it became milkier and milkier until the beads were almost pink. And as they became milkier, they also ran into each other, forming fewer, larger pink droplet globs of juice blood, until there were just 3 large pink drops quivering next to the air conditioning vent. I woke up to them shaking me and saying it was 30 minutes until the funeral. I rushed to the bathroom to throw on my suit, and the first thing that happened was the button on my pants popped off. I scrounged up a safety pin and used that instead. I didn't have time to shower, and I had packed in such a hurry when coming up from Virginia I had forgotten a toothbrush. So I was probably filthy, grubby, stinking. There is an aspect to the Jewish grieving rites that I had forgotten about, and it mandates a period of non-washing after the burial. So in a way I was prematurely and unknowingly observing a mourning rite. My phone was uncharged for days. My wallet was lost. I was swaddled in dirt and germs. I was dreading seeing Theo the most because I knew I was going to completely lose it, which I did. I met Eli's dad for the first time, and he told me some of the stuff that Eli used to say about me. Then the service started. His rabbi spoke, his mother spoke, and it was obliterating. His father spoke. There were hundreds and hundreds of people there. Snot was pouring down my face. Every time I would breathe too hard, the safety pin, keeping my pants affixed, would pop undone. and I would prick my thumb trying to jam it back down. I needed a drink of water so badly. I felt nauseous. Ryan spoke. He spoke about a road trip they took down to Miami from New York. I drove with them part way until Virginia, where they stayed at my place for a night. When we had been driving down from New York through West Virginia, there was this absolutely massive cross made of industrial metal ringed by floodlights. We got extremely drunk on the roof, and the two of them smoked 1 million cigarettes. Ryan fell asleep, and Eli was hungry and got extremely excited when I told him there was pasta we could make. He was dancing around the kitchen in his socks, heating up tomato sauce, dicing up random ingredients, and throwing pinches of seemingly random herbs and spices into the pot, then licking bits of the red sauce from his fingers, while assuring me that not only did he have a plan, but that he was an excellent drunk cook. The next day, they went down to Miami, and I stayed in Virginia, and I wrote a poem about the two of them. This is what I was thinking about while Ryan was talking, and he was talking about how that night Eli declared that they were lost, trying to find the beach in the sands of drunkenness, which I guess is where my wallet went. Then John Wolfe started to read, and he read from the poems of Eli's I published in All Stars, and when he was about 1 or 2 lines in was when I knew I was going to vomit. I walked out of the service area and into the hallway, at which point I started running down the hall to the bathroom. I made it into the men's room, but not to a toilet, and I vomited violently all over the floor. I washed out my mouth, told one of the attendants, and walked back into the funeral. After that, Jake Winan spoke, then Eli's siblings, Hannah and Abe. Then we all separated into cars and made our way to the cemetery. His family laid the first dirt on the casket. Everyone's faces were ripped open. People were wailing under the trees. When it was my turn, I put my piece of dirt on. What was absolutely, positively the most horrible thing about the entire scene was the hole, mechanically perfect and straight. The 6-foot incision of earth into which we watched the casket being lowered was becoming shallower and shallower. The dirt kept creeping up, and I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe how shallow the hole was becoming, until finally it was level with the grass. Me and Ryan stayed around for a few more days at the Todds. In their living room, we saw a copy of The New Yorker. I read the poems in it, and I told Ryan, if Priscilla, that's the person I'm writing the letter to, if Priscilla were here, she would fling this across the room with tremendous grace and speed. And then we used our smartphones to figure out what the fuck exactly a Pindaric ode is. Eventually we made our way to Ryan's parents' place 2 hours away and stayed there for a day or two. We spent the days off drinking Narragansett in the abandoned factory near Ryan's house and talking about whatever was left to talk about, such as the inappropriately colorful drug rug Joe wore to the funeral, which we all agreed Eli would have loved. I had to catch a flight home, but I had lost my wallet. There was a special screening. The TSA agent was especially exasperated I didn't have any physical document with my name on it whatsoever. All I had was stinking clothes. Not even a magazine, she said. They ended up grilling me about my hometown and details about my parents for nearly half an hour before deciding I passed muster. And then they began to do the full pat down, while another guy combed through all my bags with one of those wand-like objects which sure seem useless, but maybe they aren't. And I hope to hell I hadn't accidentally left a dime baggie of weed in some crevice of the luggage. While I was on the plane, I found some poems in my notebook I had scribbled the night after his death. I had forgotten about them because of how drunk I had gotten that afternoon, evening, and the entire following day. The plane, a small puddle-jumpy type from Boston to Richmond, was filled up with some sort of accountant convention. The person to my right was having a loud conversation with their colleagues one seat over about the importance of a committed and relentless networking effort, while I was weeping into my sleeve and hoping she smelled just how rotten I stank. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. I actually had completely forgotten about that ridiculous drug run that show at the funeral. Next up, we have Michelle Mickey Betters. One of, hosting this thing is weird because I keep on wanting to be like, what are my favorite people in the world? But Michelle is an unbelievably talented writer and somebody who, in the same way that I feel like Eli was competitive with a lot of people in his own thesis writing experience, I was very competitive with Michelle. But would pretend not to be, to this point where every time that Mickey brought in a poem, I was just like, how did she do this? How, this is absurd. How do I keep getting beat? The other really great thing about Michelle was that she was always willing, after a party, to drive through a drive-through. And she was one of the few people who had a car in Brooklyn that Eli and I knew. And so she was unbelievably generous in letting us roll down the windows and turn up Joyce Manor all the way up and scream it all the way to the drive-through. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Michelle Betters.
Thank you, Ryan. I just want to thank everyone who's here, Eli's friends, Eli's family, Eli's community. One of the things I did, Eli and I went to Pratt together, and we also are connected through Young Writers. We weren't overlapping there, but we were sort of a year apart there and talked about whether or not he should go to Young Writers, which I said he should. One time we were on Ryan's roof, actually, and if you don't know, Young Writers is a program for high school students at the University of Virginia where they go and study creative writing for a summer. And Eli went and was a teacher there, and before he went, he said, do you think I should go? Because I went there as a student and then later as a counselor, and he said, I'm not really sure if I should be, the person who leads young children into creative writing. And I said, I think you're exactly the kind of person who should do that. So anyway, one of the distinct pleasures I had at Pratt was to work on the literary journal there, and I got to publish Eli, which was a great honor. And so I'm going to read one of Eli's poems that I published in an issue of Ubiquitous, which looks like this, and there are some copies over there if you want to look at it later in the evening. And I remember when Eli submitted this poem to us, he kept changing his mind, no, I don't really want you to put that in there. But we did. So this poem is called National Park, and let me look at what year this was, actually.
14?
No. Did we not put a date on it? Oh, okay, so spring 2013. So this would have been Eli's sophomore year. Okay, so this is called National Park. Fresh start, burn carriages of stone to illuminate tunnels beneath Zion National Park. Hive of subtlety, subtle walls leave cuts. Light gets in, inevitably light gets out. Fluently speak hickory knot. Small beasts slipping into plaster, feeling flimsy, dull death. Valley eats every vibrant valley, bird, maw of salt, very well known. So that's National Park by Eli Todd. And then I'm gonna read a poem of my own, actually, about the same weekend that Jack read about. After I heard that Eli died, I got in the very same car that Ryan mentioned and drove to Brooklyn. I live in Boston now. Drove down to Brooklyn and then ended up driving a carload of people back to Northampton for the funeral. An illegal amount of people in my car. So this is called Queer Sonnet, and it's for Eli.
When you died, we drove all night following your body. We made a list of everything you somehow survived. We stopped saying it's okay in response to I'm sorry. Now it's January and I've lost the link to your obituary, which is only one of the many ways I have tried to bury you. Remember that first time I found you laid out on your back in the kitchen? I asked, what can you see from down there? And you said your own name. Your blood was on the floor. I split my own lip to join you, to say your name, which was like laughter, or which was like prayer, a fear that we grow into, a bright light far off somewhere, and no one is sure whether or not we really saw it. Imagine us there in your hometown, wearing our nicest clothes. We touched each other's shoulders. We took turns with the shovel. Every load of dirt sounded like a question. Did you find what you were looking for? What can you see from down there? Thank you.
To know Eli Todd was to know that above all, he the number one thing he was most concerned with was credibility. The common refrain from Eli was always, "You're not punk, and I'm telling everyone," which is, of course is a jawbreaker lyric. The first time that I was ever aware of Gina, our next reader, the Luxury Condos was playing at Don Pedro in Brooklyn, and that night, helping to load up the van, a Polish family were throwing things at the van as we were trying to load it up.
Jugs of milk.
Jugs of milk.
Jugs of milk.
Full jugs of milk at us in the van. And Eli was very excited because Gina was there with Hannah. And so he always, when I eventually went to Chicago to stay at Hannah's apartment, he was very excited for me to meet Gina and was just repeatedly like, they are the best, Ryan. They are just legitimate. They are smart. They are super, super articulate and will decimate whatever it is you have to say. So you have to have a conversation with them. They're incredible. So I'd like to invite Gina up to the stage.
Oh man, fuck you for that. Like right before I have to do this, damn it. Before I read this, I just wanted to say 2 Eli things. The first is the 2 memories that I hold the entire time that I think about him, and probably will forever. The first one, after that Luxury Condos concert, Eli had gotten like clocked in the nose because the whole room was a mosh pit and it was amazing. And he was bleeding and he was just so happy. He was just like, this is the best, this is the best. And then later, months and months later, snowing in Chicago on Hannah's balcony, we were outside and he was smoking. And we were talking about sexuality and the joyfulness and the pain of it. So, and then I wrote the bad version of this, coming back from, or going to the cemetery after the funeral, laying across the laps of like 4 punk kids I didn't know in the back of a junker car. And I was like writing it in my head thinking, this is amazing, I'm in so much pain, this is amazing. And then later on the plane going home, writing the version that you're about to hear and thinking, this is crap, like what is this that I'm writing? And then like 3 months later going, oh, the good version is the one I thought was crappy, and the crappy version is the one that I felt the best, you know? So this is the one that I thought was the crappy version, but is actually the better version. And if you don't know, it's like a chemical burn. a beetle turned over on its back, a night with no stars and no crickets, an arm around your throat squeezing. Give it to me slowly, in small doses. Give it to me in spoon sizes, wooden rack of places where I've been. Give it to me in beaches where you held my hand and the wood was popping and smoking, but not burning. Give it to me in the hazeless hash of less and less. Give it to me in the days with dimes for dollars, when the cornfield was endless and the pretzel burned. I can't love you, but I'm talking to you now while the hearse drives on ahead, like some kind of restlessness that cries out for bruise and burn, like some kind of poison oak creeping in at the windows, like some kind of hurt me so I'll stop hurting, like some kind of shark-toothed kiss. And I don't think of Red or Samson, because I'm in New England and the leaves are turning. Thank you.
So next up we have Bailey. Or Badiv, as she's also known. Where is, there you are, incredible. Eli, this was another person that I heard stories of before I actually had the opportunity to meet Bailey. Bailey lives at a house that is unbelievably dear to Eli, a punk house, if you will, called Heck. And this was, Eli was far more excited about this space being started than even anybody who lived there. From the moment that this was even an idea of all these people moving into this house in Brooklyn, he was just like, Ryan, this is going to be the best thing ever. He's just like, I'm going to be there all the time. He's like, I don't plan on living there. He's like, I want to be able to go home and not have to deal with cleaning up the mess. But this is going to be the best years of our lives. So I'd like to bring up Bailey.
Also, first of all, Gina, the junker car is my car. is us. So the story I'm going to read is called Trash Castle. It's from Eli's thesis, and basically it's very situated in Northampton and in the Valley, and it was really interesting first hearing Eli read it at Zinc Bar at one of Jack's readings, because Eli and I never coexisted in Northampton. I lived here also, but we became friends in New York. So hearing him mythologize this place that I knew all of the stops he was talking about and the areas and the people in the story was really bizarre. And also I think that he kind of had a really beautiful comedic voice in this. Also, Eli is and was responsible for every friend I have made in Brooklyn thus far. Trash Castle. Traffic on the bridge is backed way up as usual. I made it about halfway across before coming to a standstill. I'm locked between a Subaru and a green Volvo, shirt clenched to my back with sweat. The Connecticut River sweeps by beneath us. A few people fish from docks and cyclists cross the converted rail bridge running parallel to Route 9. With the windows down, I can smell the water even through the exhaust fumes. I text Rowan, let him know I'm held up, then stick my head out the window to get a better look at the congestion. There's a black sign with orange lights and a backhoe waiting some 10 cars ahead. There's a joke. You know the 3 seasons in New England? Winter, almost winter, and road construction. This is the only way from Northampton to Amherst, a 4-lane bridge that is perpetually closed down to 2. In New York, we would all be laying down our horns, trying to edge our way to the front. But here, back home, people are resigned to the wait. I pull the ashtray out from the dash and light a cigarette on the car later. I don't like being suspended between the 2 town lines. I want to fully exit Northampton and be in this new space. The money and the pestle I stole from Marcus are driving my anxiety, pushing me out of town. I finish another cigarette before reaching the end of the bridge. Smoking while driving, driving at all actually, has become a rare pleasure, reserved for my trips back up here. Traffic opens up and the road is perplexingly empty on the other side. I like to think people get across and then U-turn back again just for the masochistic experience of sitting on the bridge. I sing along to the hooks of songs on Hot 97, bounced in from Springfield or Hartford. You can pick up this station all the way from the city to here, which I did. The same 20 songs, rotating the whole drive up. Even my tape deck finally shit the bed a month back. There's sporting goods stores, Italian restaurants, the remains of a burned down banh mi joint, and very green trees lining the side of the highway. These things are so familiar to me. I slip into a daydream, hand automatically tugging at the wheel. In my daydream, several of my poems have been picked up by influential magazines, and I'm in talks with some small but venerable presses. I meet several of Rowan's friends who are duly impressed, especially by my nonchalant attitude towards the whole situation. I only divulge information when pressed, but everyone wants to know more. Also present at this point in the daydream are several people who slighted me as a child. A few of my listeners clearly want to fuck me. I catch myself mouthing, no, the advance isn't that big, but my agent says. As I drive past the turnoff for Rowan's, I reverse and turn left. He lives somewhere in a maze of cul-de-sacs and side streets ringing town, populated by students, and in this particular neighborhood, elderly Southeast Asian immigrants. I pass his house twice before I find it. He moved since I was last here. It's a one-level monstrosity, half painted barn red, the other half unfinished wood. The door's unlocked. Inside, Rowan's sitting on the couch, surrounded by 3 fans turned on high. He's watching something on his laptop, legs spread wide, arms draped over the back of the couch. A mostly full ashtray balances on his thigh. The house smells like sweat. Rowan looks up from his computer. Wow, hey, there you are. Where have you been? Brooklyn, for the last 4 years. 4.5. That's great. I thought you were getting here like 45 minutes ago. He removes the ashtray from his leg, careful not to spill. Traffic. Didn't I text you? Oh, my phone's in the other room. He gets up and gives me a hug. I wrap my arms around his clammy back. He asks me about the drive and I tell him. Smooth, a little traffic coming up on Hartford. Got in around 9 last night and then stopped by Marcus's. I ask him what he's been doing in my absence. When did I see you last? Christmas? No, spring. Rowan drops back on the sofa and drums on the cushions. Working at an art gallery in town, finishing up at GCC. What about you? We both know all of this. We keep in touch, but there's a ritual of recounting when we see each other. It's a way of bridging the gap that grows between people, created by distance and exclusively digital communication. Serving tables and a few bartending shifts at the new place down the block. Bartending sounds better than bar backing. Not that he'd care. I guess it's for my own sake. Smoking a lot of weed, meditating on my graduated status. Nothing really. He nods slowly, eyes on the screen. What are you watching? I say. Documentaries. I lean over and see the title sequence for the real world.
So next up on the people who live at Heck bracket is the amazing Madison Davis. I've had the pleasure of, yeah, you know her, you love her. Madison is absolutely brilliant and has taught me a lot about myself in that I have never really known anything about astrology at any point in time ever, and I've learned a lot about why I'm this way. But that being said, actually, Madison has an unbelievable analytic mind, and anytime I see her write an essay about anything, I'm always stunned by how eloquent she is, especially if it's on like the hit television show Riverdale. But she's an unbelievable thinker, an unbelievable writer, and I'm very excited to listen to her words. So Madison Davis.
So I'm going to read from an essay in my thesis called Everything Here. It's kind of about like the way in which I cope with grief, which was to try not to take up too much space, which is weird. I don't think anyone's ever really accused me of that, but but you know, Eli was the type of person that everyone had a story about him in connection, and I just didn't want to take up too too much room in other people's stories, but like ended up just like not dealing with my own sadness. So the essay shifts between like memories and then driving to the funeral, and it's fragmented, so I'll just read a few vignettes from it. Remind me of your name again, Eli asked me. His forehead glistened with a shine of sweat. It was hot, and we stood in a kitchen that was also the dining room, which was also the party space. I had been standing alone, my thumb flicked across the screen as I stared at my phone. Eli switched his beer from one hand to another so he could shake mine. He spoke quickly about something before saying, "Wait, where are you from?" "Ohio." "Ohio," he said softly, his eyes looking up searching. "Do you know where Springfield is?" "Kind of, yeah. I have an uncle who lives there. It's so weird because it's like in the middle of nowhere, right?" "I'm from a small town too. It's like rural Massachusetts, you know. Did you know Dave Chappelle went into hiding there? In rural Massachusetts? No, I mean in Springfield, in Ohio. My uncle just sees him out and about at the grocery store all the time. It's the craziest thing." I said Ohio was probably an okay place to hide, how there are always people sporting Confederate flags. He listened, interjecting to draw similarities to his hometown. A half smile fixed on his face, his head tilted to the side as his brown eyes stared, absorbing everything. "What's the difference between gossip and storytelling? Between honor and pride? Between my right brain and my left? Between hyperbolic tendencies and gross misconduct? Between morals and sentiments? Between mourning and grieving? Desire and nostalgia? Between speech and meaning?" It felt strange to be around people who didn't know, people whose worlds remained unchanged, people who could talk about loss as an abstract. When Annika stood in the doorway of my bedroom, her face blurry and red, I asked, "But he's going to be okay, right?" Later, on a day when we were remembering everything, she would talk about how she had to tell me twice in order for me to comprehend once. I have to scroll down a little bit. I was awkward with my grief. I carried it like a delicate egg, nestled between my knees as in one of those ridiculous races from childhood, when you had to prevent the egg from dropping before reaching the finish line. I kept the sadness close but in a strange hold, reminding me not to let it break because who could be expected to clean up the mess if it did? Sorry. At Ryan's birthday party, I ran out of beer too quickly. In the middle of my second of my only 3 beers, Anna reminded me, "You're going to need more to get through this night." I said it was okay, and then she said no. Eli's going to get more, so it's fine if I drink some. And I laughed because for some reason that did make it okay, taking free booze from him rather than someone else. I talked too loudly to Ryan about why Drake was overrated, with the exception of one dance that was playing, and also Take Care, and maybe one other one. I convinced Nate to interrupt Ryan's playlist so we could listen to Missy Elliott. When the Replacements played, I asked Robert if it was his favorite artist, Bruce Springsteen, and he said that Springsteen isn't his favorite artist, and that he was pretty sure that I knew it was the Replacements who were playing. I did know, sorry. When Eli returned with the gin, Anna and I berated him for bringing mango juice instead of the obvious tonic water, even though I don't think either of us truly cared. Frankie told me that he was going to Western Mass with Anna and Eli, and he was going to be forced to go on a hike. That's what I thought. No one should ever have to go on a hike. You know what? You don't understand Madison. You haven't even seen this landscape, Eli interjected. It's a beautiful fucking landscape that many people have painted. Usually I complain about the lighting in their apartment, that the fluorescents were harsh and uninviting, but that night I didn't care. Everyone was beautiful and everyone smiled happy. I could go on forever.
All right, so we've got 2 readers left. We're going back to the Todd family bracket now. Next up we have Dorothy. Somebody really doesn't need much of an introduction, but I'm going to give one anyways. So Dorothy is, I really do think at a certain point in time, I thought that Dorothy was the mayor of this town.
almost every time that Eli spoke of his mother, she had just won some major civic battle in the town, and I kind of just assumed that she was like part of the city council or the mayor, and almost every time he spoke of her, she had just won some major new victory for Northampton. The other thing that he always talked about was her that she's known as a jogger who falls down a lot. But a very impressive jogger nonetheless, he would always specify. So I would like to invite Dorothy, the mayor of Northampton.
Not sure about that introduction. I don't fall down that. Curiosity. So I'm going to read something that Eli left. We just stepped back and we just recently got into his Google Docs, which is where most of his work was. It was on his phone, and there was a whole story about why we couldn't get into his readings. But we had lots of notebooks with lots of handwritten things, and we, over the last month or so, have just been typing up a bunch of them. And some of them were just sort of vignettes or sketches or stories, and I don't know, this one just struck me for some reason. I think it's going to sound familiar to the people who knew some of the people involved. So let me just call it up here. And I just named it, it didn't have a name, but I called it Before Leon Disappeared. You have a memory from a few months before Leon disappeared. It's a slow and red memory, or a conjunction of memories, because it seems unlikely all these people and objects were in one place, or that there was this place. In fact, it seems unlikely that there were these people, or that you were there to bear witness. But what remains is a memory that has become very solid, immune to contradiction or reshaping. It's become unstuck from any narrative or chronology, free-floating, so to speak, so that it could occur wherever. It could occur whenever. Months ago, weeks ago, years ago, before or after Leon disappeared, and Alec became someone else and retreated somewhere south. What matters is that it happened in a room, and now you can walk in and out of that room when you need to, when you are in your dark office on a hot day or on the train late at night. In the room, you're sitting on a couch. This is where Leon lives or sleeps or stays. He's sitting next to you with his face scabbed, arm folded crooked across his belly. Someone hit him with an SUV, and when he fell off his bike, his cheek stretched across the pavement. When he tried to take a picture of their plates, they kicked his ribs and took his phone. He stinks, and you know in his mind he is already far away. The room is dark and has high ceilings. An industrial fan keeps everything rippling. What was once an empty room has lofts and layers built into it, plywood bedrooms on stilts, metal shelves, PVC running across the ceiling. The couch is placed improbably in the middle of the room. Prose is sitting next to you. You are running a finger on her arm and feeling either the pulse in her wrist or the pulse in your thumb. Or maybe Leon, that hapless bastard, is sitting in between you, matted hair and thick speech. He has on a nice shirt. What you know for sure is that there's a snake. It's a pine snake, patched and dark. It belongs to the woman behind you. She holds its head between her fingers and strokes its throat, speaks lovingly into its mouth. Its body is extended across the three of you on the couch. You had a snake as a kid, so the coolness of its skin, the mystery of its movements don't surprise you. You put a hand on its back, feel its muscles. Leon is slack. This woman is his friend or something close to it. This is the last time you will see him in this house. After this, you'll hear bad things about him from Rose, from other friends. You'll see him biking from far away or sleeping in a park, and then you'll stop hearing about him. What you're all watching is Alec. Today is when you learn that he dropped out of high school to join the circus, melodramatic to the core. There are two thin curtains a few feet apart, running from floor to ceiling, and he's grabbing both, spinning and flipping himself between them, ecstatic. He is older than you, stronger, but his body looks fragile and hairless. You can imagine him being blown off by the fan or just coming apart and tangling in the curtains. For now, he's upside down, sliding toward the floor, hanging from his ankles. This memory is loud. Rose is laughing. You are laughing. Alec is war whooping. Before he hits the ground, he flips upright and slides up the curtains. His movements as inexplicable and self-propelled as the snake's. This is the memory. The couch is red. The curtains are red. The room is hot and loud. You can't remember where the snake came from, how you get home, why Leon brought you there. You know that Rose will move back to Boston. You know that Alec's mind will split in half, and like a lost dog, he will go running the wrong way. that Leon will be gone for everyone's good. People will blame people. You'll work in a dark office. Sometimes you'll step into this room, into your laughing body on the couch, the cloth worn from fancy to ratty under your elbows, reptile so cold it's still on your lap, and Alex spinning infinitely toward the ceiling.
There's a saying in the Todd family that I am very fond of, which is that in order to win an argument, you just have to be louder than your opponent. Something that I have always, it's something I feel like I instinctively knew, but was really great to know that the entire family agreed. I had the pleasure to meet Hannah for the first time last year when I went with Anna and the Todd family to go see a production of 2666, which is a novel by Roberto Bolaño that was adapted to the stage. I also that weekend met my fear of snakes head on, something that I'm very grateful to Hannah for, and was very pissed about at the time. I'd like to welcome Hannah to the stage, somebody who is always willing to make her point as loud as possible.
Just before the end of this, I just want to give a thank you to Ryan Carson. And I will say, I don't know if there's anybody who could really match Eli, and that's true of our family too. I think the only person I've ever met who could match Eli in terms of loudness, among other things, was Ryan Carson. So it was a great pleasure to have him in our.
It's a constant headache.
Yeah, it was a great pleasure and added headache to have Ryan join our shouting matches. I'm going to read the story of Eli's called Miata. Does anybody know when he wrote this? Yeah, it's in one of those, right?
Senior. Oh, yeah.
Why don't they ever do this? Fall 2013.
Fall 2013. There
You're
you
the
go.
head editor, Nikki.
And I think, all of us who know this story really think it just shows what an incredible writer Eli was. I wake up close to noon and it's sunny outside, but the air coming through my window smells chilly. I sleep until 2 p.m. Then I call Lisa and Lisa comes over. Before she pulls up in the shitty Nissan pickup, I put on jeans and a wife beater and go to the living room so it looks like I've been up and maybe productive today. Lisa flies in wearing loud sunglasses and a loud dress, and I, thrown across the two-person leather couch like a discarded jacket, tell her the honest truth. Lisa, babe, darling, I slept so late today, and today was so beautiful. Oh, darling, I'm filled with self-hatred. I'm sick when I sleep late like this. Days like this should be spent outdoors in the woods, Lisa. I can't even eat. I am so frustrated. And Lisa says, Guy, when I woke up today, half the Canadian geese in the northern hemisphere were flying south over my house, and I didn't feel jealous of a single one of them. When I woke up, I drank green tea for breakfast and sang to myself because the record player, tape player, iPod player, and all the speakers were broken. By now, she's perched on the armrest, leaning over me like a stork. Thank God for her big plastic earrings. Thank God for her minute teeth, her wiry hair, her freckled cleavage. She takes me back to my room and absolves me for a few hours, passionate and methodical. Before, she says my room smells weird, and shame comes over me like a warm blanket. Afterwards, of course, we watch Mark through the window at the foot of the bed. The things hanging from my ceiling, brightly colored and shiny bits of paper, plastic bottles, old light bulbs, catch the light and splay it across the walls just the way we like. Erratic. Mark talks on the landline for a while, in his kitchen for a while, massaging the spot just above his eyebrow like he does only when he's really pissed. Sometimes it's hard to see him at this time of day, 4 o'clock p.m., because now is when the sun burrows into the little lane between my building and his house and glares off his windows. But today we are in luck. The windows are wide open. Once he throws up his arm and almost knocks one of his green mugs off the shelf by the microwave, sending us into hysterics. Oh, Mark, Lisa says, I could rock you into oblivion. I could juice your brain into a love potion. I could drink you up if you were as big as the Mediterranean. She pushes her forehead against the glass. Mark, I whisper, I could make you understand everything. I squeeze the flesh under Lisa's ribs, press myself to her back. Lisa, we are a still pool of water. Today, Lisa has decided that Mark is an ex-Marine, probably Spec Ops, real hunter of men type, widower and father to 3 estranged children scattered across the continental U.S. Usually, he is a retired banker slash lawyer slash Wall Streeter who lost the better part of his fortune in some bad investments towards the end of his career. An amiable divorcee and father to one son he loves but rarely sees. Both profiles match his middle age, solitude, apparent unemployment, his just out of shapeness, slightly prematurely gray hair, stoic demeanor, broken by a tendency to stare longingly off the back porch at the overgrown chain link bordering the empty yard, beer in hand, jaw set. The Marine story means Lisa's feeling romantic. Later, we fuck again, both heads turned sideways to see into Mark's room on the 2nd floor of his little house. He watches TV from his bed as the sun sets. Soon my sheets will be stiff and rank with sweat. Books cover the floor. We slip on their jackets when we try to walk to the kitchen or the bathroom. I don't read them, never more than the table of contents. Lisa likes to stare at them and try to pick out patterns in the mess. Right now, our clothes lie over them like outlines of mutated people. In the morning, we eat what we can find in the kitchen. Stale baguette dipped in canned marinara sauce, sweet pickles. We take turns sitting at opposite sides of the table, switching off who sits smiling with their face washed by the sunlight coming through the big window, and who watches the other lit up and blinded. In the sun, Lisa is elusive, the familiar lines of her cheekbones and mellow eyebrows lost in the glare. I'm bathed in radiance, both of us naked in our chairs. This breakfast is a shrine to your collectedness, your calming effect on my free-floating anxiety, I tell her. I sometimes think that for the last few years we've inhabited an intermediate space exclusive to our shared experience, inaccessible to either of us as individuals with independent agency. Is there an avatar? I lean back in my chair, which whines and pops, and drop breadcrumbs into my mouth. Lisa leans across the table at me and arches her eyebrows. Her hair, cherry red this month, congregates at her ears and shoulders. The chair slips and I fall over backwards. I look at her chin while she turns and looks out the big window over the sink, from which you cannot see Mark or Mark's house. The plants around the windowsill are threatening to crawl their way into the center of the pane soon. Time to starve them into submission. I get up and open the window and stick my head and shoulders out, hanging over the road in front of my building and Mark's house. 3 stories up, wind pulls at my hair, the sun warms my scrawny neck. A white sedan playing the news at high volume jolts along underneath me. The pavement is rough, sun-bleached light blue and free of paint, so no one's quite sure where the lanes are, or if there are lanes. I stick my tongue out to taste the breeze, a slight smog coming up from Boston, bread and commerce from the center, a hint of the Atlantic from across town. White frame houses across the street at ease in their own shadows. Lisa gets to work. Sitting in the walk-in closet, she starts arranging the 2 green mugs and the charcoal portrait of Mark that will make up the base of the piece. She hasn't decided yet what to do with the beer bottles or the 3 hammers we got from his garage. I wish I could help, but I don't know anything about this kind of stuff. The bottles were the easiest to get, just a quick dash across the lane and a fence hop. There were, of course, a few moments of heart-stopping anxiety when I thought we would fall off Mark's lawn into the abyss of the afternoon oceanside sky, or that Mark would see us and shoot us. But nothing happened. We just waited for him to go inside, and then we went and climbed over the shoulder-high chain link into his yard, right after his Miata pulled out of the driveway. We'd already been watching him for a while, months, and we didn't plan it ahead of time, our first collection run. But we knew when he'd be gone, and the spirit took hold of us. We grabbed 5 bottles off the deck, 2 Pabst, 3 Heineken. Mark's grass felt like tarp underfoot. The sun wrapped heavy around Lisa as she gathered picked beers, and I thought her transcendent. We, I said, are becoming unothered, are sewing a bridge across an ancient gap. This is neighborly. I squatted in the grass watching her pyramid the bottles in her arms. We escaped back to my apartment like swift birds or rats, and if someone saw us, they saw us. While Lisa does her thing, I go and make some money, moving things from here to there in the truck, selling things we found or made or stole on eBay and Etsy. We are experts, lords of the discarded and unwatched. Yard sales, small stores, curbsides, lost and founds. Today it's breezy and I sing along to songs I don't know on the radio. People on the sidewalks are slow, the business is old, the gulls bitter. Sometimes me and Lisa are the only young people who live here. Today, we are the only young people alive. Once, Mark left the back porch light on all night, and me and Lisa wept until dawn. Lying in bed, clutching, fingernails in her sharp hips, toenails between the tendons and my ankle. Out the windows, everything was dark and airy, but the yellow floodlight on the wood deck, alone in the coastal night, each slat laid bare, each white cigarette butt clinging to the grass, exposed. We had no words. Snot ran down Lisa's cheek onto my fingers that cupped the side of her reclined head. What does affection have in the face of all that loneliness right outside the window? When I get home, Lisa is prisoner to inertia. She's smoking a cigarette at the big window, and the mugs and drawings are disassociated in the back of the closet. Guy, she says, there are long secondary highways, broad river crossings, hours of early morning thought before revelation between the subject and object here. We have to collect more. Let's steal his car. We are fish in a tsunami, I say. I agree. It's dark green and from the early 2000s. He washes it by hand. Slick, mean thing, exhaust like a double-barreled shotgun. I don't want to ride in it, I want to ride it. Guide it from gear to gear, every part of my body and every part of its machinery and synchronicity. 2 feet floating over 3 pedals, chassis humming. As my left hand steers us sliding corners, my right works the e-brake and shifter. The rear view a blur from the engine growling, teeth clamped with the tire squeals. Mark parks it in the driveway, never the garage. When it snows or rains, he covers it up with a black tarp. I feel sick watching Mark alone. Lisa's been gone for a day or 2, I lost count. She's with her cousins or with the people she sees to make money, I don't think about it. When she says she needs to work and leaves, I know not to call her until she comes back, and it's fine, I just wait for her to come back. Usually I tack a heavy sheet over the window so I can't see him, but today I need to plan a heist. Situation seems good for observation. It's overcast, which renders me mostly immobile. We stocked up on organic soda and white bread before Lisa left, so I am sitting stable in bed with nourishment around me and reptilian attention focused out the window. He walks places frequently. His gait is a drop box with legs and arms. Gone 15, 30 minutes at a time, enough if we prepare. The roof won't go up for a few weeks. Oh, Lisa, I say to her essence, today I couldn't sleep past 9, awake and headachy. I gathered everything to me and chewed your return like broken glass. Today, I eased into the day like a turtle into its shell. Today, I am a drive-through no one ever uses, eager and unaware of my own hollowness. Mark smokes a cigarette on the deck and stretches like a football player. Often, I think he is the kind of man who should own a Rottweiler. He reads a magazine in the kitchen, talks to someone who makes him laugh on the landline. Sometimes Mark feels so big I could disappear into him. He lies in bed and turns on the TV but stares at the ceiling. His bedroom is painted a brutal shade of light blue. When he goes into the den, the one room besides the bathroom where I can't see him, I explore the scabs Lisa's nails dug on my back. I pull feathery lint from between my toes. Mark goes out to the deck and sits on the edge and drinks a Heineken in 6 large but widely spaced gulps. Sometimes he feels so small I could fit him in my mouth. He goes out the front door and gets in the Miata. He doesn't park it in the garage because the garage is filled with other things. A lawnmower, a leaf blower, 2 spare tires, hubcaps, a workbench, power saws, power drills, jerry cans, tools I don't recognize, a 10-point buck mounted on the wall in the back, a pump action hanging underneath. I didn't see any shells. The hammers were on the bench, each smaller than the last. Lisa wasn't around that night, and he left the garage open I saw when I peeked past the sheet against my better instincts. It was the mouth of a cave, one of those underground networks filled with crystal formations and strange organisms. When I saw it, I slipped on a black hoodie and walked evenly down the stairs out my front door. I wanted to surprise her. She hadn't been getting anywhere with just the bottles. She'd arranged them in every pattern I could imagine and drawn the portrait to accompany, but neither of us could take satisfaction in such a malnourished monument. We deserved more, all 3 of us, than just a pile of colored glass. It was 2 a.m., so I knew he wouldn't be awake. The garage had been connected to his house. I crossed the lane, opened the gate, went in, got the hammers, came back. I felt like a deep-sea diver. That night, going into his driveway, the garage, there were no smells, no sounds. Lisa found the hammers in the closet the next day and was overcome. With these, we can build a wagon and travel the desert. We can make a raft and leave it on the freeway to be pulverized by the tractor trailers. I go to get the mugs that night while Lisa sleeps. She sleeps slowly but spectacularly. drifting off in time lapses until unconsciousness pulls up over her like a tide. So I had to wait longer than I realized. When I reached to open the low gate, Mark comes out the door, fishing poles on his shoulders. My fingers rest like a dragonfly on the galvanized steel. "Hey," Mark says. He smiles and comes down the steps toward me. I step aside, out of the way of the gate. I didn't think this was how it happened. Slightly chilly, false dawn just breaking, him with somewhere to go and me with no excuses. I think of Lisa lying cool in bed, watching us from the window, seeing spoken phrases passing between us here on the observation grounds. Me in the screen, her looking back through the screen. I start to get hard. He is crossing the short walk almost to me. "Good morning," I say. He pauses at the gate. "Guy, right?" Oh, Lisa, what could I say? "Yes. Mark?" "That's right," smiling. "You on your way to work?" "I guess." I don't know why he laughs. Later, we spend hours debating. Me, I'm gonna go down to the wharf and go fishing. Try and catch some stripers or bluefish if I can. I used to eat fish, but now I've grown so scared of the ocean I can't, I say. "Okay, son." Mark passes me, closes the gate. He looks at me with what I think is a weary expression. "I collect things, paraphernalia. What do you say to a titan? What do you say to an obelisk? What do you say to a ghost? Lisa, I had so much to confess. I wished I was doused in kerosene. The edges of the sky were fading blue. The 2 stories of his shingled house shrank into themselves, crouching beneath the brick complexes and row houses. The 3 of us were pinpoints on a map. "Have a good day, Guy." I nod. I circle around the block and go back through the side yard, pry open the kitchen window. Inside, I take the mugs off the shelf with half-closed eyes. I couldn't bear to know what it looked like in there. Lisa comes back, and I have a plan. I barely slept while she was gone. She rocks every inch of me restful before I explain. We walk to the gas station and buy organic soda and apples. We slide right over and liberate the vehicle, she says, then drive in miles in every direction. "Yes," I say, cross-legged next to her on the book pile. "He's out to sea until noon Saturdays. With late sunrises this time of year, oh, Lisa, darling, we'll have hours of perfect dark." We practice hot-wiring the Nissan. We practice silent stalking around my apartment. We practice sex in the back seat of a car. In a few days, our lives will be all motion, all wind and sun whipping at our heads. When we absorb enough of Mark, we'll drive the Miata into the sea. Friday night, we lean breathless against the window, joined at the shoulder, joined at the hip, joined at the cerebellum, the brainstem, the space above our heads where our collective thoughts gather. Thank God for Lisa's pointed shoulder blades, her black t-shirt. Mark leaves, goes walking to the docks. We are down the stairs like spirits. We step into the lane like it's a mighty river. Thank you.
All right, guys. So thank you so much to everybody for coming out. We just have one quick announcement about a very exciting opportunity you all can get in on.
Hi, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Joey. I grew up with Eli, and we became really close early high school. I want to thank you all for coming to celebrate his work and what he inspired. And we want to continue that for the coming years, and some friends of ours, along with Eli's parents, are setting up a scholarship for students who are graduating from Northampton High School and want to follow in Eli's footsteps and do creative writing. So we're starting a GoFundMe. We have to raise $10,000 to start a perpetual scholarship that will go on for a while. If you'd like to donate or join in on it, it is GoFundMe/Eli Todd. So.
So thank you so much to everyone for coming. This is amazing. Community, the arts is the only thing that Eli liked more than punching fascists. So thank you so much for coming out. And catch me drinking a beer over there. All right, later guys.
Yeah, time I was hosting those readings at my apartment, am I talking in the microphone right? Can you guys hear me? Yeah, at the same time I was hosting the readings at my apartment, I was also hosting weekly readings at this bar in downtown Manhattan, and all of our friends would stop in sometimes, but Eli came more than anybody to both of them, and yeah, it always meant a lot to me, and yeah, he was just a really, really great friend. And I wanted to read this short little piece by him that he wrote when he was 7 years old, I believe, and it honestly convinced me of his natural talent as much as anything I've ever read by him. It's completely astonishing, not only the insanely precocious vocabulary that he had, but his supernatural understanding of the balance of language. And yeah, I had to Google one of these words, which is a name of a flower. So some of you may know it and some of you may not. It's by Eli. My favorite words are armadillo, platypus, maraca, python, pyramid, peninsula, chihuahua, penicillin. My favorite words are puma, cougar, emu, kiwi, zinnia, gopher. My favorite words are lynx, muskrat, scorpion, sturgeon. I found these in the dictionary. I wonder if they're in Pictionary. And the second thing I'm going to read is just, it's kind of an essay, more of a letter that I wrote to a friend and a teacher who taught both me and Eli while we were at Pratt about my experience going to the funeral. While we were, the whole weekend was kind of a blur, and while we were there, I lost my wallet. I lost my wallet at some point while up at the funeral. I don't remember how. My friends woke me 2 hours before the funeral to get food, but I had to go back to sleep because of how hungover I was. When I went back to sleep, I dreamed I was back in my apartment in Brooklyn on Nostrand, and Ryan and I were there, along with a few other people, and the walls were bleeding. Except that I knew it wasn't really blood. Somehow I knew that it was juice, that it had come from the empty cup of juice in my hand, and that I had thrown it across the wall behind me. The juice blood was very red at first, and over time, while Ryan and I talked, it became milkier and milkier until the beads were almost pink. And as they became milkier, they also ran into each other, forming fewer, larger pink droplet globs of juice blood, until there were just 3 large pink drops quivering next to the air conditioning vent. I woke up to them shaking me and saying it was 30 minutes until the funeral. I rushed to the bathroom to throw on my suit, and the first thing that happened was the button on my pants popped off. I scrounged up a safety pin and used that instead. I didn't have time to shower, and I had packed in such a